Welcome to the Outlier Betting Strategy Series. Today we're talking about one of the most popular topics that you'll find when it comes to sports betting, and that is line movement. Whether you're a new bettor, whether you're quote unquote sharp, whether you're a public or casual recreational type of a player, line movement is something that comes up in almost every sports betting conversation. Where did the line open? Which way did it move? What does all this mean? And how can this be useful? That's what we're talking about today with this line movement video. So the first thing that I'll start with is maybe a little 101 for you guys. You probably already know this, but line movement is basically a line has opened, has shifted around, and we're discussing what is the strategy behind that move, or what can we glean in terms of info from that move. Let's say the Green Bay Packers are playing the Dallas Cowboys. Green Bay opens as a 1-point favorite. They, throughout the week, the line moves, and now they're a 3-point favorite. So we've had some line movement there. Now, this stuff is kind of relevant because it's almost like the stock market, right? It's, let's say you're trading on a certain day and it's 9:30 a.m. Eastern. Apple opens at $100 a share, and then later in the day, it's at 105. Well, and let's say based on no news, right? It could maybe imply that somebody knows something before the rest of us. Let's say it moves up to 105 on news. Well, then, there's maybe reason for it to go up. So it's kind of the same thing with sports betting. When you see these line movements and they're kind of quiet, sort of under the radar, not a lot of news, you start to wonder who's actually betting these lines. Maybe they know something that we don't. Maybe they're sharp bettors, right? And making sort of an estimated guess as to who they think will win. So that's where some of this stuff becomes valuable. So with line movements, the first thing I'll tell you in terms of how I handicap them is, especially with football, is if I see them early in the week, I think that those tend to be sharp. When you look at, let's say it's week 1 of the NFL season and we're coming to the first Sunday evening or Sunday night football game, and the sports books are rolling out week 2 lines, and you're going to see those opening lines and you're going to see them move around a little bit. So that to me is a sign of sharp action, right? I don't think that Joe Q Public is betting week 2 before Monday Night Football is finished. Recreational bettors, on the other hand, tend to wake up Sunday morning and make their decisions between 1 to 2 hours before kickoff, right? They're going to watch ESPN and all those shows and the pregame stuff, and then make their decisions. They'll read some fantasy stuff, make their fantasy picks, suicide pools, or survivor pools, I should say, all that stuff. They'll do that last minute. So when I see those movements, to me, those are more recreational bettors than it is sharp bettors, right? So this is the way that I would lean on this, because it's always tough to really act on this, is just use it as one more tool for your handicapping. So what do I mean? Well, if some sharps like Green Bay at -1, going back to our example, and now they're at -3, you've kind of, some of the juice is sucked out of there. It's like Apple, right? Maybe some big firms at Wall Street liked it at $100, but at 105 they're selling, right? So you're not getting the same price as them, and so things change. So it's always going to be hard for you to catch what sharps are doing, but it doesn't mean that you can't use that information to help you handicap, right? So I'll give you an example. Outlier has some great tools that help you pick props and handicap games, and let's say that's part of your complete diet of, okay, we're going to rely on Outlier's algorithm, just find us some good bets. Then we're going to go off and do some research, make sure that, some of these are good, and then find what the best ones are based on whatever decisions you made. Well, now, if you see sharp money moving a line, you can add that to the equation. That becomes one more piece of the puzzle to reinforce a decision. Or going the other way, maybe it turns you off a decision. None of this stuff is stuff that you can just blindly follow and make a ton of money off of. It would be too easy and everybody would be doing it. So my recommendation is follow those sharp line moves and just add it as sort of a another thing that gives a vote of confidence for a pick or turns you off a pick. When it comes to the public moves, to me, I don't. My blinders are on about that stuff. I don't really care what the public is doing. When you see like those public percentages and stuff like that, I don't personally care about that stuff. I think about more what are the sharps doing. So again, line movements that are sharp might be early, preseason football, smaller college football games, tennis, all those types of things to me are sharp line moves. When it's right before game time, I don't think that that's necessarily a sharp move. And that's the last point that I'll tell you is that you need to get a feel for these line moves in a number of ways. When you see a line move early, now that I've told you, you might the light bulb might go on and say, okay, that's more likely a sharp move. Or you might see it midweek and say, okay, let me go through a checklist, right? And you should have a checklist of like, okay, is it weather that's moving the line? Is it an injury that's moving the line? Is it, some other factor, a coach fired, for example, that's moving the line? You have to get a feel for what might make the line move. It's not always going to be sharp money moving a line, quarterback bench, whatever it might be. Then you also need to get a feel for what's a reasonable amount for a line to move. If I said to you, and this is sort of the expert level, right? If I said to you, okay, Aaron Rodgers is not playing tomorrow, or Tom Brady's not playing tomorrow, what does that impact on the line? Right. And then based on that, you can sort of see, okay, what's a reasonable line move? Is it a point? Is it 3 points? What about in the NBA? James Harden's not going to play. Is that a point? Is it 3 points? Joel Embiid's got load management. So I know that not everyone's going to be great at this off the bat, but that's kind of where you want to get to so that you can in your head say, okay, Embiid's out. That's a 5-point swing. I see the sportsbook is not adjusted, or I see the lines moved up. Maybe it's sharp money hitting it, whatever. You're going to get a feel for where the market is and where it should be. And that's really how you can start to gauge these line moves. Weather's another one, right? Is it windy? Is it, is wind blowing out at Wrigley Field? What does that do to the totals, right? That's all of these things are a factor in line movement. So it's not always just public versus sharps moving lines. You need to sort of round out the whole picture and figure out what is moving the lines in different scenarios, what's a reasonable amount, and so on and so forth. The better that you get with this, the better you'll be able to take advantage of the lines, because you'll have a feel for where they should be and when they're off market, and where you might have a bit of an edge. So anyways, that's sort of my TED Talk on line movement. If you want more, and we do have more, make sure you check out the outlier.bet betting intelligence blog. There's more on this topic in the article on line movements. There's more on all sorts of other sports betting topics as well. Also check in with our YouTube channel. Just click around on some of the rest of the videos. Hopefully you learned something. Smash that thumbs up. Share with your friends. We would really appreciate it. Thanks for watching this video. We'll talk to you again soon.